This is Mac OS Ken.
A couple of positive notes on Apple, producer and consumer news for Apple in India, and to quote Billy Joel, "Where's the orchestra?" It is Monday, the 12th of December, 2022. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 40% off your new security system at simplysafe.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by BetterHelp, online therapy. I was watching the trailer for the upcoming Apple TV Plus title, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse yesterday. The trailer features a very profound exchange. "What's the bravest thing you ever said?" asks the boy. "Help," responds another character. Asking for help isn't giving up. It's refusing to give up. I have been exactly there, thinking that seeking help in the form of counseling was weak, that it was stupid, that I could tough it out, deal with whatever it was on my own. Asking for help isn't giving up. And you can find it through BetterHelp. In the past, I've appreciated how easy they make the whole process. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. Couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macOSKen. That's betterhelp.com/macOSKen. betterhelp.com/macOSKen. Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani ended last week accentuating the positive where Apple is concerned. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote, wherein he said, "Yeah, I expect Apple to miss between 5 million and 8 million iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max sales this quarter. And yes, others expect missed sales to be higher, more in the 10 million to 15 million unit range. Make way for the positives, though. iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max sales won't be lost, but deferred, in his estimation. The cluster thing that was the iPhone City shutdown will likely hasten the setup of iPhone production outside of China, and wait times have shortened for the more in-demand high-end models. They are said by the analyst to be about 2 to 3 days shorter than the week before." I don't know about you, but I'm going to be whistling "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life" for the rest of the day. Mr. Daryanani has an outperform rating on Apple's shares. Evercore's price target on the shares is $190. Pushing as much positivity around Apple as Evercore's Daryanani to end the week last week was Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote, which followed the form of Daryanani's. He starts by highlighting uncertainty among investors, saying Apple has captured a number of headlines in recent weeks, ranging from iPhone production shortfalls in China, supply chain geographical diversification, a pivot in the Apple Car strategy, new App Store pricing tiers, and updated security and data privacy features, amongst other topics, resulting in an influx of investor questions. iPhone production disruption in Zhengzhou, China, and the impact it'll have on the December quarter has been the topic capturing the majority of investor attention. Yeah, okay, but Woodring and crew believe investors continue to underappreciate the strength of Apple's ecosystem. The way he and his see it, the core drivers of Apple's business: 1, growing product spend per user; 2, increasing services spend per user; and 3, installed base growth, remain intact as Apple continues to reduce churn and improve installed base monetization. Sure, something new would be great, but Apple can keep doing what it's doing and make more money for quite some time, seems to be the firm's thinking. And if uncertainty or negative sentiment negatively affect Apple's shares, that creates a buying opportunity in the analyst's estimation. Mr. Woodring has an overweight rating on Apple shares. Morgan Stanley's price target on the shares is $177. As much trouble as Apple has had this quarter getting iPhones made, the phones that were produced seem to have stood Apple partners in good stead. A piece from CNBC says TSMC reported a surge in revenue in November, thanks in part to orders of semiconductors for high-end smartphones, such as Apple's iPhone. According to the report, TSMC's November revenue hit the equivalent of $7.27 billion US. That is up just over 50% from November of 2021. Good as that sounds, it's not all Apple all the time for the chip maker. Other big TSMC clients include Qualcomm and ARM. The piece has Counterpoint research analyst Dale Guy indicating that high-end smartphones such as the A16 chip for Apple's iPhone and the latest semiconductor from Qualcomm contributed to the majority of TSMC's seasonal strength. So, largely Apple all the time then? Not as catchy, but perhaps more accurate. iPhone's been crushing it across Southeast Asia. That's according to a few reports from Counterpoint Research. Apple 3.0 rounded up 3 notes from the firm. While one showed smartphone shipments up 34% for Vietnam last quarter, iPhone shipments were up 139%. That was on the strength of iPhone 11, iPhone 13, and iPhone 13 Pro Max. Counterpoint says Apple distributors are opening more official stores in Vietnam, which is helping the brand reach more customers. Over now to Thailand, where another Counterpoint report says 5G smartphones accounted for 47% of sales last quarter. 53% of that 47% was some sort of iPhone, according to the firm. Smartphone sales in the Philippines were flat last quarter, according to the third Counterpoint note highlighted. Flat except for the premium segment. Premium smartphones were up 115% year-on-year, while the above $600 segment, the one in which Apple plays, was up 123%. Counterpoint thinks the recently launched iPhone 14 series will boost Apple shipments. Foxconn is throwing more money at not China. TechCrunch says Apple's manufacturing partner plans to drop another $500 million on operations in India for reasons that are not overly clear. The piece cites a Twitter post from Bloomberg's Tim Culpin that says, just in, Foxconn announced a further $500 million investment into India. It will inject cash into India via Foxconn Han High Technology India Mega Development Private Limited. So, little help there on the why thing. In his write-up of the news, TechCrunch scribe Manish Singh says the investment comes amid Foxconn's plans to expand its chip-making factories in India. And yet most of the rest of the article is about Foxconn and Apple's plans to expand smartphone production capacity. Either reason for the expanded investment, more chip making or more smartphone production, could be seen as good news for Apple. It would still be neat to know which one it is. Another sign of growth for Apple in India, the site Inc24 says Tata Group subsidiary Infiniti Retail is set to open 100 small exclusive Apple stores across the country. The 500 to 600 square foot locations go into malls, high-end streets, and posh neighborhoods. According to the piece, unlike the premium Apple stores, these stores will be smaller in size and will mostly sell iPhones, iPads, and watches only. Currently, India is home to 160-plus large premium Apple stores. Infiniti Retail is said to be talking with several malls and high streets about upcoming store locations. The piece says those deals include terms that Apple stores will not be open near any of the Tata Apple franchisee outlets. The first Big Little store is expected to open in Mumbai in the first part of 2023. More news in a moment, but first a word from SimpliSafe, the right way to protect your home and sponsor of today's show. Your home should be where you and your family feel safest, especially over the holidays. This season, give yourself and your family protection and peace of mind with the #1 rated home security system, SimpliSafe. Right now, SimpliSafe is offering macOS Ken listeners 40% off a new security system. I've told you for a while now some of the things that I love about SimpliSafe. How you pick the parts for the system you want to build, because you know what your home needs better than anyone. I also love how easy it is to set up. You don't have to let strangers into your house. I had my sensors, keypad, and base station up and running myself in well under an hour. Not that it's you against the world. For less than $1 a day, the SimpliSafe team keeps an eye out for hazards. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, SimpliSafe professional monitoring can send help the moment it's needed. Don't miss your chance for massive savings on the best home security system of 2022, according to U.S. News and World Report. Get 40% off any new system at simplisafe.com/macOSKen today. SIMPLI. That's simplisafe.com/macOSKen. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. The back and forth between Apple and Ericsson has ended for the foreseeable future. MacRumors says the Swedish telecommunications company issued a press release Friday announcing a patent license agreement between the two companies. If this sounds familiar, you've been here a while. The piece points out that Apple and Ericsson were suing each other over intellectual property disputes until a deal was reached in 2015. That deal, reached at the end of that year, was set to last 7 years. That means now is either a time for more lawsuits or more deal-making. Unable to reach an agreement, Ericsson actually kicked off lawsuits against Apple early this year. Now they're friends again for who knows how long. Friday's announcement quoted Christina Peterson, Chief Intellectual Property Officer at Ericsson, saying, "We are pleased to settle the litigations with Apple with this agreement, which is of strategic importance to our 5G licensing program. This will allow both companies to continue to focus on bringing the best technology to the global market." Perhaps to keep litigation at bay, the report says the two companies are looking to deepen their ties. Friday's announcement had Apple and Ericsson pledging to strengthen their existing collaborations, including in technology, interoperability, and standards development, according to the MacRumors piece. If you're wondering where Apple's replacement for Primephonic is, you are not alone. Apple bought the classical music service Primephonic in August of 2021, shut the service down a couple of weeks later, though it gave then-current subscribers 6 months of free Apple Music and the promise of a dedicated classical experience sometime in 2022. Don't look now, but there is not much time left in 2022. In 2021, Apple said, Apple Music plans to launch a dedicated classical music app next year, combining Primephonic's classical user interface that fans have grown to love with more added features. Now, MacRumors says that is the last public comment from Apple on a Primephonic replacement. The Cupertino company did not respond to MacRumors' request for comment. And finally today, congrats to a couple of high-profile Apple TV Plus titles. The Cupertino streamer issued a press release Friday announcing places for Severance and Pachinko on the American Film Institute's list of the 10 best TV shows of 2022. A title or two has been a thing for Apple and AFI for the past few years now. In 2020, Ted Lasso was on that list. A year later, Ted Lasso was there again, along with the musical comedy series Schmigadoon. On the film side, Wolfwalkers, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and Coda have all been honored by the organization. All of the honored titles, and then some, are available to stream now on Apple TV+. Today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, Canada condemns Apple over airdrop changes in China, and Twitter Blue makes a comeback. TMO managing editor Jeff Butts and I talk it all over on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 40% off your new security system at simplisafe.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.